This is the SpaRetailer Podcast, where we talk retail, business, and all things related to the hot tub industry. I'm your host, Megan Kendrick, owner of SpaRetailer Magazine. Today on the SpaRetailer Podcast, I am excited to have Jamie Burson, the owner of Great Bay Spa and Sauna up there in New England. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Jamie.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Before we got on, I was saying, I know we've spoken before, but I'm not sure if I ever officially interviewed you. And also, I realized the other day that I don't know a ton about your background and how you ended up owning Great Bay, a company that's been around in the industry for a really long time.
So, it's a great company, and I started working for them when I was 20 years old. And
Okay.
yeah. And, I actually started working in the warehouse and helping out with deliveries and
Okay.
worked my way up through the ranks. And as a, overly sure of themselves, 20-something-year-old, always told the owners that one day I'm going to own this business. And,
Oh, you did. Look at you.
here we are.
Yeah. That's great. So, like me, you were an employee that ended up buying the business. Although that sounds like that was your long-term plan. It was not mine.
Yeah, it's, there was always a dream of mine. And just like with anything, the day that comes that they go, okay, now's the time, let's go. And I'm like, wait, what? And, this was when they approached me about purchasing the company was November of 2019. And
Okay.
I'd actually just gotten back from a pool and spa show. And they said, told me what's going on and said, we want you to buy the hot tub company. And of course, I was at the time had a, 6-month-old at home. We're
Yeah.
in the middle of doing home renovations. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So went home, talked to my wife, and she's like, well, what's the hesitation? Why are you so nervous? And I said,
Yeah.
it's just like anything. When
Uh-huh.
you can dream about it all you want, but, and when the moment actually comes that it's happening, it's like, whoa, all right. But
Yes.
no, so we moved forward. And then, of course, COVID hit. And,
Huh?
I wanted to make sure that we had a good line of credit with the local bank for operating capital, and all the banks got scared and said, we want to wait and see what's going to happen here. And we don't want any new accounts right now. So we put it on hold, and then the purchase on hold. And then obviously the industry went insane, and the bank were calling me around May saying, yeah, we're ready to move forward. So let's go. And
Yeah.
I agreed with the owners that we would wait a little bit longer, and we ended up closing on the business in January of 2020.
Okay.
Or excuse me, January of 21.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Bad math.
Yeah.
Bad
Yeah.
math.
No, you're good. So, I mean, what a crazy year to try to be buying a hot tub business for a lot of the reasons that you just outlined. But I mean, did the price keep going up as the sales kept getting insane?
The original founders took really good care of me, wanted to see it stay with an employee. We had a lot of tenured, employees, and still do, that stayed on with us. So they were still kind, just not as kind as they had originally been. But
I
no,
mean, that's
they were
fair.
still kind. It is fair. It was very fair. So
Yeah. So who did originally start the business, and when did it get started?
yeah, so the company was, kind of officially founded in 1976, was like their first year of operations.
Okay.
It's kind of a cool story. I've heard several stories out there very similar on how people fell into the hot tub industry,
Yeah.
especially during those pioneer days. But 3 owners, they were all college friends. They had all vowed to never work for anyone else. And they tried their hand at several different businesses and, different ventures. And their very first company was a company called Bavarian Autosport, which was a a parts company that sold BMW mini parts. And they
Okay.
had a
Okay.
small store here where we current location is in Portsmouth today. So they had a small store in the next town over. And at one point, they were all also a bunch of ski bums. And they, at some point, ended up deciding they were going to buy a hot tub, a few different hot tubs, bring them back to New England and start selling them. So they literally had, I think, two wood barrel hot tubs that they had on a trailer, and they would drive it up to the various ski mountains in New England during the winter and have them running and would sell them off a trailer. So
That's
anyway,
amazing.
they, got in. That's what got them started with the hot tub world. And they
Yeah.
started doing saunas and they started making their own hot tubs. And then in 1986 is when they first partnered with Sundance Spas.
Okay.
So we've, which we still have to this day.
Early days, man.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So
And
yeah.
what were their names? The
Um,
friends?
yeah. So it was Peter Robart,
Okay.
um, Mark Ruddy, and Dave Wasson.
Okay. Okay.
And Peter was mostly responsible for the hot tub company, and they also had a lumber company that they, as an offshoot of, because they were carrying Western red cedar and redwood,
Okay.
and
Sure.
nobody else was in New England at that time. So
Huh. Interesting.
yeah,
So did they remain the owners until you bought it, or did they buy each other out eventually? How did that end up?
yeah. So Peter, unfortunately passed away, and I think it was 2017,
Okay.
and so the other two owners, had bought out his wife, his shares, but I think, he got pretty sick. So he had
Mhm.
a pretty nasty form of cancer.
Mm.
And, I think that was really kind of a point for them that, hey, we need to start figuring out what our succession plan is, and,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, to try to keep their babies rolling.
Yeah. But
So
they all 3 stayed partners in the business for all of those years. That's pretty
believe it
amazing.
or not.
That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. That's pretty
Yeah.
I mean, just like there's the interpersonal part of it for sure, but just, your lives change over that
Yeah.
like, it's such a long period of time. Your needs change, your family changes, so it's it just even that alone in and of itself is kind of amazing that everyone stayed with it and stuck with it and, hopefully we're still speaking by the time by the time they sold it.
Yeah, I've heard there's been several quandaries, but they always kept it behind the scenes, which was good.
That's
So
yeah, that's also pretty amazing. It's funny, for our last issue, I worked on this story about the history of swim spas, and Great Bay came up as one of the early people selling swim spas in New England. I think that they were one of the first companies that Bob Lauder sold swim spa shells to before he even started and owned master spas. So, like back in the late '70s, early
yeah,
'80s,
yeah,
selling swim spa shells to Great Bay Spas, and so it just made me laugh. It's,
yeah.
these companies that have been around since the very beginning of the industry.
Yeah, and we still have a couple of those that, believe it or not, that are still out there running. And
Oh, really?
yeah,
Amazing.
and another irony story is back in the '80s, there's a round hotel that's actually right next to our brand new, our new location that we're about to open up in Portland. And in that hotel, we installed, two hot tubs for them that were, just shells that all got all built in place, and
Yeah.
they're not there anymore. But yeah, it's just all these small world scenarios. So
Yeah, it's so true. It's good to remind myself sometimes too, just like how young our industry still really is. Like these are the people who started the industry and they're still around and like just now moving into retirement. And it's just kind of crazy to think that we really haven't been around for that long, the hot tub
it's
industry.
true. It's very true.
Yeah. So, you kind of explained, you gave the bullet points of how you got into the industry and how you became the owner, but as a 20-year-old kid, what was it about working at a hot tub store how did you end up there?
I just like many at that age, I think I fell into it. It was when I started obviously I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking that I was going to go back to college, but wasn't sure what path I wanted to go down. And I didn't want to spend all that money just to have a piece of paper on the wall that doesn't get used. And so I started working there. I pretty quickly got promoted. And it was actually where I really fell in love with the hot tub side of it was, in actually the downturn in 2008, 2009, where they asked me to help out and cover on the showroom floor. And
Okay.
that's really, I really got into the sales side of it. And that's where I was like, holy cow, this industry is like a ton of fun, and it really just hooked me. And that's when I was like, all right, you know, I'm enough with anything else. And this is what I'm doing with my life. So,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
my career.
Yeah. I mean, what was it about selling hot tubs? I mean, was it seeing what they did for people, or was it, I mean, kind of the rush of the sale in general, or kind of all of the above? What do you feel like was the thing that really hooked you?
I think for me personally, it's a little bit of both, but
Sure.
mostly really truly what, the wellness products that we have, what they do for people. And, it's true. And obviously there's a lot of veterans that are listening to this that, share the same sentiment, but it's once people start really truly using a hot tub and use it on a regular basis, they'll never live without one. It really does change their life. It changes their way of life. And just seeing that firsthand, it's that you got experience on the sales floor because you don't see that necessarily when you're on the operations side. It made, that's really where it clicked for me.
Yeah, it gave you
And
that purpose, right?
yeah,
That we kinda all need our jobs to connect to feel passionate about them.
yeah, yeah. No, it was great. And, and I think that everywhere I've gone in this industry and all the people I've met, it's just, there's just a lot of really good people and a lot of people that are, there's so many people out there that have, helped me get to where I am today that, you don't necessarily experience that everywhere else in life. And I think
Aw.
that's one of the really cool things with the hot tub industry that, the vast majority of people just want to help you and see you succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my experience too. That's why I didn't wanna leave when my boss was ready to hang it up, right? Since I didn't wanna start over and have to build all new relationships, right? I
Yep.
loved the people that I got to talk to and work with. So when by the time you bought the company, how long had you worked for them?
So I started, so 18 years,
Okay.
or I was technically 17 and a half years, but
Okay.
when officially bought
We
it.
can we
So
can we can round up. That's fine. That's fine. 18 years. So, I mean,
yeah.
did you come in with a I don't know, did you come up in with, like, a laundry list of things that you wanted to do or change or tweak? I mean, I feel like it goes one way or the other. Either an employee buys a business is like, "I am turning this thing around, like, we're fixing everything," or they're like, "This is a great company and I love it and I wanna, be in it and keep it."
So I'm a big balanced person,
Okay.
and I recognize that we're at the end of the day, we're nothing without our employees. And as I had mentioned, all of our staff stayed on with us. And, so yeah, I had and still have a laundry list of changes and adjustments. But it wasn't, this starts today. We're all this stuff's changed. We've taken a slower approach at it, really tried to get everybody on board
Mhm.
as best we can. And, one of those big things we actually, this kind of a cool little piece of the story is, we had one of our service techs that had been with the company for quite a long time. I would say late 90s. And he had left and was just working for us part-time. And he was working for a big cable company in the area. And once he found out that I was going to be purchasing the company, he actually left the cable company and came back to work for us full time.
That's awesome.
So I think that's a lot of the sentiment that you get from the employees,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, everybody, and that's one of the unique things with the business under the former ownership. You know, they still had 3 active businesses,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there, therefore we were actually quite intermingled with the lumber company. We
Okay.
would share
Still,
labor
that's
and
that's
resources, and yeah,
fascinating.
we would still build in house. You know, back then we were still building any wooden barrel hot tubs or any saunas
Oh,
or custom cut
wow.
saunas. And when I was purchasing, obviously that piece of it was going to go away. Some of our resources were going to go away because we were able to share some of the labor side of it for deliveries.
Yeah.
But it was always a goal with myself and all of the employees that have worked for the company for so long to really focus solely on Great Bay Spa and Sauna. And everybody wanted to expand and, you know, gain more market share, have more locations. And that just wasn't a priority of the former ownership at the
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
You know, they were thinking retirement,
Yeah.
not expansion. So
Absolutely. I mean, and that's what happens. That's kind of the natural cycle of a business, right? You know, you start it, you're young and you're hungry and you build it. And then, you know, it kind of goes and you get to a point where you're like, do I really want to invest more in this? Because I am like, I got one foot out the door at this point. Like, I'm not sure I want to, you know, spend a bunch of money to open a new store or make a bunch of changes. And and then, you know, you kind of get put in a little bit of a holding pattern there for a few years until that decision is made to actually sell. I mean, it's just kind of the natural way of things.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And I see it time and time again too. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, you know, sitting in your car outside of your new showroom that will probably be open by the time this episode comes out. At least you hope, because if it's not, we've got problems.
that's right. That's right.
Uh,
It better be.
yeah, but I mean, have you been a part of a putting out a new store or remodeling, rebuilding, or is this all this or is this like drinking from the fire hose a little bit?
So this is, you know, technically speaking, you know, the first time I've opened, you know, a showroom in a new market. You know, we did in 2020, we actually moved out of the location we were at for 25 years and
Okay.
it moved across town, went from a 2,500 square foot showroom to a 10,000 square foot showroom
Okay.
that was, you know, in a prime retail area. So I had, you know, so I just have gone through that. I learned quite a bit in that
Yeah.
experience,
Would have been a really good
which,
primer for this for sure.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, where this location is, it's technically in South Portland. It's directly across the street from the mall. It's in a prime retail area. It actually has visibility from the interstate.
Ooh,
So it's, you know, as soon as I saw this place come on the market, we jumped on it. But yeah, so as far as direct experience, yes and no.
yeah.
And we're still, you know, Portland is close enough to Portsmouth where we run all of our operations out of that we're
Okay.
able to, you know, keep that as you know, all the operations will remain out of Portsmouth, you know, for at least the next few years. And, you know, so, and then stuff like when we need to add service techs, we'll, you know, look to hire somebody that's up in the Portland market opposed to out of Portsmouth. So,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So, I mean, so there's the proximity to your headquarters, which is great, but why was Portland the area that you wanted to expand into first? Or was it just that it was the first opportunity really that came along?
So yeah, so there's a couple pieces to that. One of the things is in the Portland market, the Sundance dealer that had the Portland market had actually just closed up shop, you know, probably I want to say 5, 6 years ago. And so the territory was open for Sundance. And so we've been looking up here for quite a while. so competition wise, there's really one main competitor that's a serious competitor. And then
For sure.
there is, a couple smaller competitors in the immediate market, but you really don't have a lot. Whereas
Yeah.
in the Portsmouth market, which is crazy to think about, which is a much, you know, is if you look at a 10-mile radius, it's, the numbers are, half of the demographics
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if not even worse. And we have 10 hot tub retailers in a 10-mile radius.
Really? That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, and that didn't used to be that way.
Okay.
That's been, since, COVID hit, there's been a few new places that have opened up
Okay.
but that's it just this was just made all the sense in the world
Yeah. Yeah.
for multiple reasons.
What's been the most challenging part of trying to get the new store open so far?
I would say really just finding the location was the hardest part. The rest of it has, we ended up purchasing the building instead of leasing it.
Okay.
And I think we went under agreement in February of this year, and because of kind of the agreement that was in place with the former ownership of the property, they weren't able to close until June 10th. So we had
Oh,
quite a bit of time to
yeah,
to
seriously.
start preparations. And that one of the things that I learned from opening the Portsmouth store is I knew that I wanted to hire an architect for not just the build out piece of it, but for also the design piece of it. And
Yeah.
so we were able to look at 3D renderings and go, all right, well, let's put these hot tubs here, let's put these swim spas here, move stuff around, opposed to just starting to fill it up and go, well, that didn't quite work the way we wanted it to. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, so we had a lot of time to prep, and our contractor that we're working with knew the timeline of, so we closed June 10th, and they knew we wanted to be open for Labor Day weekend, and
Yeah.
they felt that they could get it done. And one of the things that I had to sacrifice is instead of doing the full build out of the entire building, we're doing it in two phases. We're going to have the front half of the building open for Labor Day weekend, and then the back half will be done after that. So the back half
Okay.
won't be open until the winter.
I mean, that seems
But
reasonable. Do you feel like you're gonna make your timeline? We're talking in the middle of August, so you got a
yeah,
couple you got a couple weeks left.
yeah, no. So I feel pretty good about it. So
Okay,
I
good.
think we're just planning on doing a soft opening to start, and with the grand opening, a few weeks after that. So
Okay.
it's not, if everything isn't done quite on Labor Day weekend,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. And it's, believe it or not, I have not been too stressed out in the whole process. So.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Did you intend to purchase the location? Was that your plan going in, or is that also just kind of how it ended up working out? It was the right opportunity.
So, that we got lucky. We always were looking to purchase or lease. Obviously, in real high traffic, high retail areas, it's for the most part you only see stuff for lease. It's really unique to see stuff come up for sale.
Yeah.
So this property was actually listed. It's a former Cracker Barrel.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and the building itself is only about 15 years old, but they just ended up stating staffing issues, long going staffing issues, and that they decided to close this location. And the person who owns, because it was actually just a land lease. And so Cracker Barrel owned the building, but they didn't own the land. And the owner of the land bought the building from Cracker Barrel and then ultimately sold us the land and the building.
Okay. Okay.
So it was, but that was my various advisors in industry and in other areas of life, obviously, are like, get as much real estate as you can
I
that
know,
the
right?
business can support. And
Yep.
so the opportunity was there. We made the offer, and here we are.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've done so many stories on succession planning and business acquisitions and on the changeovers, and the real estate always ends up being a big part of that, right?
Yeah.
That ends up being a big part of, someone's retirement when they're done. And so yeah, it's a big deal, and it's yeah, not always possible. So that's pretty exciting that you found the right thing, the right place. But yeah, remodeling a Cracker Barrel, that's gonna be interesting. I mean, what did you have on your wish list for the store as far as the layout or the features that were on your absolute must-haves?
Well, so again, the convenient piece of it was having just opened up, or moving our showroom to a new location in Portsmouth. That we took a lot of the same design aesthetics. We added to them. We added more of them and took a lot of the stuff that, I wish I had done differently in that Portsmouth store
Mhm.
and incorporated into this location. And, that's one of the unique things we have in Portsmouth is the front half of or front three quarters of the showroom of the retail space is, pretty just big open area. And one of the things that, almost immediately after you're in there and operating, we noticed, we had our swim spas were most of them were right in the middle of the showroom, but there's not a good spot that you can hang a TV or other marketing items around them.
Yeah.
And, swim spas is obviously a huge growing category. But the problem is most people don't know what they are. So you need those self-teaching tools that people can figure it out that are too afraid to ask a question about it. And so that's, one of the things that we made sure to incorporate here was having, various dividers, if you will, built in so that we have places for more TVs and, directly behind swim spas and throughout the showroom.
Yeah.
And then that back three quarters of the showroom in Portsmouth is a space that's dedicated it's probably about 2,000 square feet that's dedicated to as what can be a private wet testing area. So there's a couple saunas in the one in Portsmouth, and every series, all the different series of hot tubs and running swim spot. And in Portsmouth, we have it done it so that it looks like you're outside. So it's
Right.
got, patio and decks. And so we're doing basically all that same stuff in Portland.
Okay.
So we've, emulated that room. It's going to be a little bit different, a couple different changes to it, but again, so that people can go in there and if they want to be left alone and turn off the lights and, try to imagine they're at home looking at the stars, they can. And
Yeah.
it's most of the people in the industry will agree that if you can get somebody in to try a hot tub wet, you can close them. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have pretty good luck getting people to wet test the hot tubs? I don't know. I feel like some people I talk to, or it's like, that's what they do. It's just part of the process. And other people, it's like, I don't know. No one really wants to get their swimsuit in the store. And so they don't really, don't really do it
yeah,
that often.
yeah, and I've heard the same feedback over the years,
Yeah.
and had the same exact conversations with various retailers. And I think for us, we make it as part of our presentation.
Hmm.
We really encourage people to do it just because we know how valuable it is.
Yeah.
And you know, it's we our salespeople often will tell people that you may be dead set on this model because of the size and the price, but you may get in it and completely change your mind on what you're getting. So I think that is, I think having the ability to wet test and wet test several models is very important. And especially when you get into the swim spa world, so like this showroom will have, I think, let's see here. So we'll have 5 swim spas on display
Okay.
and two of them will be running. So
Okay. Okay.
it's, and that's very important with anybody interested in swim spas is being able to try and be able to see multiple models.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So as someone who also worked at a business for a long time and then bought it, what would you say has been the most surprising thing of going from being the employee to the owner? Because it's never what you think it's going to be. Like even if you think you know everything, you don't.
Yeah. Number one, that was the numbers. And I thought, cause I would review P&Ls and, forecasting and, be an active participant in, you know, yearly forecasting. And I thought I had the numbers, I thought it was good. And
Yeah.
it's very different when you're the guy who's solely responsible for that.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing. And
Yeah.
so I think that was probably my biggest adjustment piece was going, okay, I didn't know as much as I thought that I did there.
Yeah.
And, but we're big, that's a big thing. We're big into numbers and forecasting and really trying to let data, dictate, business decisions and, or at
Mhm.
least utilize them into what we're doing. And, that's, for example, when we're, all right, here we go. We found this property in Portland, we ran numerous forecasts looking at, you know, every scenario we could possibly think of, numerous worst case scenarios,
Yeah.
multiple, obviously it's easy to look at the best case scenarios, but, and have various contingency, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Contingency plans of,
Yeah.
if, if this, then this. And I think that that's really helped us to, even before Portland was a thing is
Mhm.
as we were watching the market retract from COVID, okay, at what point do we make what adjustments and where do we make them?
Yeah.
And I prefer to have as much of that planned out as possible, opposed to, having to make reactions after you go, oh, and then you're like, well, we really should have done that 6 months ago.
Right.
So anyway, but
Yeah.
that would be my biggest thing. And, the other side of it is really, as a manager, I had the freedom of being like, well, the owner said this. And,
Yeah.
now I'm the guy who's saying whatever it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
so it's
So if you
just,
have to deliver bad news, it's you delivering the bad news.
yeah,
You're the one causing the pain.
I've, learned pretty quickly to, be a little bit more direct and, not be so timid by confrontation. So
Man,
it's
yeah,
necessary evil.
that is, yeah, agreed. That's a tough one for me too. I do not like confrontation, and so yeah, it's fortunately I don't have to do it very often, but yeah, when I do,
Same.
it's like, all right, let's gear up. You can do it.
Yep. Yep.
So, and we talk about, trying to run your business by the numbers and with the data. I mean, it's been so volatile the last few years. I mean, how have you been able to manage that? Like, I mean, I think it's been hard for people who've owned a hot tub business for 20 years. And, you kind of came in at a time where, it's just really, really high highs and some really, really low lows. And so it's like, how do you plan when you kind of don't have that backlog of, I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't know how people are figuring it out right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's, obviously with stuff like that, stuff that's beyond your control, it's been tricky. And, we just made, we really just tightened up every area that we could. The luckily during COVID when stuff was going crazy, we were able to actually manage additional, you know, having, higher demanded deliveries and all that stuff by using part-time help. And often in cases, we got really lucky where some of them were, one of our employees' father, or his teenage son. And so that we're really fortunate when it came to that we weren't in a situation that we had all these full-time employees that were going,
Yeah.
"Ooh, business is scaled back drastically. We got to start making big cuts." The bigger areas for us was really making adjustments to, marketing budgets and, really looking at ROI and where we're spending and, shifting some of the funds, pulling back some other areas. And, we went as far as looking at, what our various policies are and making sure that, okay, well, when we're super busy, I mean, we're telling everybody, work whatever you need to work, just get the job done. But,
Right.
is that, that's one of the questions. Is there some abuse going on there? now that stuff slowed down. So,
Right.
it's speaking of conversations that are not fun to
Yeah,
have,
right,
but,
yeah, yeah. Do you
um,
really need to work that overtime, or are you just not managing your time well?
that's it. That's it right there. That's
Yep,
it right there.
yep.
And that's a big conversation with managers is, make sure that you're really, keeping actually monitoring what everybody's doing. And because we don't want to be in a situation where we went, oh crap, you know, we
Right,
we were too loose and now, we have to make drastic adjustments as far
right.
as personnel or whatever. So
Yeah,
we've really been tightening on everything. We've been looking at areas for obvious growth and expansion,
yeah,
other product categories and really anything that we feel that will work. And, that's one of the things, just like probably every retailer in North America that sells saunas is, very happy that they're selling saunas right now. Saunas have really been a huge growth area for us and
well, that's so
have
interesting.
helped a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. It's interesting how those things, one will go up while the other goes down and, hopefully, even each other out, right? I'm always like, why can't everything be high at the same time? But I'm always glad that there's one that's like doing better than the other,
Yeah, well, and same. I mean, completely the same. It's don't always understand every trend, but I'm glad that saunas are really strong right now. So
Yeah. So
it's a
when you're
big
looking
help.
at, you talked about scaling back your marketing budget. I mean, obviously, like when you're marketing in a completely new area, that looks a lot different than, marketing when you've been in business in a town for, since the 70s. So what are you thinking as far as that goes? And, what's kind of the plan of attack for getting your name out there in this whole new market?
Yeah, so it's obviously that's going to be a little bit different than what I just said, but we're trying to be really smart about it and really, looking at two things. So one, obviously driving leads and actual form fills
Right.
and number two, just brand awareness. And I feel that we've come up with a, good strategy to be able to do that without necessarily involving, going out and running commercials on the news
Sure.
and which we, do often. However, it's you can't measure it and it's very expensive. And, so that's an area that we're looking at, a little bit differently and taking a different approach. And we'll still do some traditional
Sure.
media. It just wouldn't be as much as we would have done, for example, when we were having the grand opening for the new Portsmouth store. We went, much more with what we would historically do and for media spend and this time we're going to take a different approach. I'm a little nervous with it and trusting in our
Yeah.
marketing partners, but
Well, that was gonna be my next question is who do you lean on to help you make those decisions? I mean, does the manufacturer have some resources to help you kind of know what's worked in other places for them? Or, you have like you said, a marketing partner or company that you work with that knows the area? Like who do you kinda get to help you figure that strategy out?
yeah. So our marketing agency, which is Normal Bear Media, which is
Oh, sure, I know them.
owned by Hawk Media.
Yeah.
I think I was one of Scott's very first customers. I was either number one or number two.
Okay, okay.
And I actually met Scott when he was working for Aquaquip in
Okay,
Seattle.
okay.
And, when I learned that Scott was going to go out on his own, it was a no brainer to switch, who we were working with, because here you go, you got an agency that has direct retail experience, which,
Right.
most of the time, and I'm sure again, most people listening to this can relate is, you're having to teach them what a hot tub is or what a sauna is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you waste a lot of time
Man,
educating your marketing company.
try finding someone who works with niche publishers. has has any experience in that area because I guarantee like it's so frustrating. No one understands our business at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah,
I
right?
don't
Yeah.
envy you on that one.
Yeah. But
You
no, but
gotta,
you're right though. I mean, there is that, that you have to get over. It's like, things are not as cut and paste as they want you to think they are. It's just not how it works.
that's right. That's right. And, and one of the things that, you know, S- Scott and his team at Normal Bear or Hawk Media, they're great and they're very responsive to making adjustments and changes. And for example, we did a truckload sale actually up in the parking lot up here. And, they were using a couple different landing pages that they've used in the past, but it wasn't converting. And something was off.
Mm.
And they were able to pretty quickly get in there and make adjustments for that event, which, you know, helped a lot. And then we ran another one about 3 weeks later. And that one, they completely reworked everything they were doing on it. And that one was, it was a night and day difference.
Mm.
And they were, it was amazing with just a few, what appears to me as subtle changes. And it was a drastic difference in
Yeah.
response
Fast. That's so
in
fast. That's so
leads. And
fascinating. And how nice to kind of have that under your belt before you are going into this whole, opening the doors. You kind of you've done a little bit of A/B testing before you do the real thing.
that's it. Yeah, that's right. And, and they got a couple other new things they're going to
Yeah.
be doing for, the new location. And so I feel that we're in a good spot with it.
Yeah.
And, we're still going to do direct mail as much
Amen.
as it pains me, but it works. So
It does work. Yeah, it does work. Yeah. So does advertising in magazines, by the way. That works. That works good too. But no, it's true. Like direct mail, like there is something about holding something in your hands that like I feel like has actually kind of grown in its legitimacy instead of gone backwards. It's like now that our lives are so online, there's something about getting something that you can hold in your hand that just makes it feel a little more real in some ways.
well, and I often say to people when we have this conversation, you know, you we all know how many people are open their emails, regardless whether it's an advertising piece or whether it's a bill.
Hmm.
And it's, obviously text is a better form in this day and age, but
Yep.
it's even at that with the way technology is shifting drastically, that's going to change. And
Yeah.
that's why sometimes just good old conventional, paper, physical
Yeah.
mail is a great tool. Um,
I've definitely bought something because I got something in the mail for it. I mean, 100% have done that. So, I mean, I definitely think it is still, a good part of the marketing pie.
yes, I completely agree. Except for all of our competition shouldn't do it.
No, 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 of course not. Of course not. I'm sure they not. I'm sure they're not. I mean,
Yeah, right. I wish it was that easy.
right. So, you've got a few years under your belt. You've got this new store that's about to open. I mean, what are your kind of future goals and aspirations for the company? What do you feel like is going to be next?
Well, I think, so this for us is really, you know, getting out there. This is obviously step one and really being able to work through any of the, operational side of it. But no, I think, we're ultimately, the entire team is committed to future expansion, future growth, just like with any market, there's always opportunity. And no, the plan is to continue to grow, continue to expand. Some of it might be through partnerships, some of it might be, acquisitions, some of it
Yeah.
might be just brand new, open territory. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all options are on the table and we'll leave it at that.
All right. All right. That's good. I usually when I get a we'll leave it at that answer, that usually means that something's sort of in the works that we can't talk about for a while, and that's great. So just let us know when it's time. All right. Well, I'm going to let you get out of your car here in a second. I'm going to make you answer our Spa Retailer 5, the same 5 questions we ask at the end of every interview. And then after that, you can you can get out of your car and go back to work. All right. So do you remember what your first hot tub sale was or anything about it? The model, the customer? Do you remember selling your first hot tub?
Yes, it was a Sunday at Hamilton.
Okay.
And however, that isn't the most memorable one.
Oh,
It
well,
was, it
okay.
was, it
Okay.
was, it was
Okay.
because I had backup. So, the guy who was training me was 5 feet away. It was probably about 3 weeks after that. All the experienced salespeople were gone out of the showroom, and I was working it alone. And they're like, it's a Friday. It's usually, you might get one or two people in. And there was five
Oh,
shoppers that
sure.
came in,
Of course. Of
three of
course.
them at the exact same time,
Oh,
and
no.
I sold three out of the five. So,
Wow,
and
that's pretty
uh,
good. That's
I was sweating
oh, I
everything
bet.
off. Yeah,
Oh my
I was
goodness.
couldn't have been more nervous, but it was, a great way to really rip off the Band-Aid, and
Yeah,
here I am today.
that's great. What was your first real job?
That the government knew about, or
Yes, yes. Exactly. Yes.
I think officially, I think I was a dishwasher. I was a busboy in a restaurant
Okay.
for summers,
Okay.
and yeah, I think that was the first official one.
Yeah.
I did not stay longer.
Well, I mean, that's fair. What would you say is the worst, I don't know, idea or product or maybe the biggest flop that you've tried in the business where you thought this was going to be it and then it just did not work out?
Mm. Yeah, that's a tricky one. There was, yeah, it's been a while since you've done anything that's like, been habit. Oh, yeah, I got one. I
Okay.
got
All
one.
right. Great. Let's hear it.
All right. So this goes back, you know, a few years, and it wasn't my decision, but I was involved with it. And it was, oh man, what were they? They were essentially these little one person water beds that were like little massage beds.
Okay.
And we saw them, and between the sales manager at the time and the owner, they were like, yeah, let's jump on this. Let's do this. And they bought, I think, six of them. And
Mm.
one of them, when we were moving our location, I said, throw that damn thing away.
Oh, you still
Uh,
had it.
we still had one of them
Oh my
left.
goodness.
Which was at that point, we had no intention of selling it. The service, one of our very veteran service techs was like, oh, let's just keep it for parts in case one of the ones out there breaks. But yeah, that was epic flop right there.
Oh man. I'm not sure that's a concept that I really could get too excited about.
Yep. You and everyone else.
On those, so what would you say is maybe one of the best ideas, the biggest game changer in the business?
There's a couple. I mean, obviously, because saunas are going crazy right now. Saunas. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the, but I think it's hard to list just one, honestly. I would say, there's a handful of select products that are, complement our products that we offer, that I think, one of them being Smart Top. And, it's, again, we'd always been partnered with, Hilo, or, so we'll call it Sauna 360.
Okay.
And, past couple of years, we decided to bring in Leisure Craft and Dunlop saunas, and that's been, a huge, huge benefit for us. So
Yeah.
obviously swim spas, we've had them a long time, but I can't,
One of the first. I
now,
mean, one of the first.
yeah, well, it's true. It's true. I've told people that before and they don't believe me. So now we
Oh,
have proof.
yes, no, you can definitely say you were one of the first because I spent weeks and weeks and weeks digging up information on swim spas. So I will give you that absolutely.
Love it. Love it.
All right, well, the last question. Do you have a
Yes.
favorite book or TV show, podcast, something that you go back to for entertainment or to learn from?
You
what's
just,
your thing?
you just love asking the hard questions, don't you?
I know. Yeah. No, because if you asked me that question, I would really struggle to answer it because I'm a I consume a lot of media. I'm not sure I retain a lot of it, you know?
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, podcasts, the Spa Retailer podcast, obviously.
Well, of
Uh,
course.
but no, I would say my one of my all-time favorite books, which I think I've heard actually mentioned on your podcast before, but
Oh,
is
funny.
Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That was book that really hit home, and I love that book and lots of his
Yeah.
other work, and just how he thinks organizations should function and be run.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good one.
so I'll go with that.
All right, great. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, hanging out with me in your car and your in your build out. I appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so
Well,
much for
no, yeah,
having me on.
it was great to get to meet you and talk to you, and I'm excited to see how this new showroom turns out.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, looking forward to being able to share some photos.
Yeah, for sure. The Spa Retailer Podcast is a production of Spa Retailer Magazine. Let us know what you think by leaving a review or emailing us at podcast@sparetailer.com. Thanks for listening.